I used to believe that Thomas and I had something real. For months, I'd poured my time, my emotions, my trust into this relationship, thinking we were on the same page, exclusive, serious, building towards something meaningful. But looking back, the signs were always there, weren't they? The little hesitations, the unanswered questions, the way he always managed to avoid certain topics. One of those topics was his family. I'd asked more than once when I'd finally get to meet them. Every time, his answer was vague. Soon. When the time is right. It's complicated. At first, I didn't push. I wanted to respect his space. But after months of waiting, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. And then, just when I thought we were making progress, he hit me with an excuse that sent a chill through me. "We're going on a family trip this weekend," he said casually over dinner, barely looking up from his plate. "A luxury resort. Just family, though. You know, a more intimate thing." I swallowed hard, forcing a smile, pretending it didn't sting. "Oh," I said, keeping my voice light. "That sounds nice. Maybe next time?" Tomas only nodded, offering some half-hearted reassurance. But as I sat there, pushing my food around my plate, something about the way he said it, how quickly he changed the subject, made my stomach turn. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself I was overthinking. Maybe his family really did want some private time. Maybe I was being unreasonable. But no matter how many times I told myself that, the feeling wouldn't go away. It lingered in the back of my mind, gnawing at me like an itch I couldn't reach. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a message. I glanced at the screen absent-mindedly, expecting a friend or a work email. But when I saw the sender, my breath hitched. Thomas's parents. "We're so excited to meet you on this trip." I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. My fingers hovered over the screen, my brain struggling to catch up. What the hell was this? He had told me I wasn't invited. He had said, no, insisted, that it was just family. And yet, here were his parents, clearly expecting me to be there. I swallowed hard, my fingers moving on their own as I typed back, "I can't wait to meet you too." The second I hit send, my stomach twisted. I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting, hoping for some kind of explanation to appear. But the only thing that stared back at me was the truth. Thomas had lied to me, and I had no idea why. A slow, suffocating realization settled over me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It wasn't a small slip-up. Thomas had deliberately lied, and for what? To keep me away? To hide something? My mind raced through every possible explanation, each one worse than the last. I could have called him right then and there, demanded an answer, confronted him with the message, forced him to explain himself. But something stopped me. A deep, instinctual voice whispered, "Wait, don't show your hand just yet." Instead, I played along. I sent a short, polite response, just enough to keep his parents from suspecting anything was wrong. Then I placed my phone face down on the table and stared at the ceiling, trying to steady my breathing. My heart was pounding, my hands felt cold. Thomas had lied to me, and now I needed to know why. Not just guess, not just assume, I needed the truth. And suddenly, I knew exactly how I was going to get it. I wasn't the type to act on impulse, or at least I hadn't been, until now. The moment I saw that message from Thomas's parents, something inside me clicked. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just made a decision. I needed to see it for myself. Within an hour, I had booked a flight. The same resort, the same weekend. If Thomas wanted to lie to me, fine. But he wouldn't get away with it. I'd watch, I'd listen, and when the time was right, I'd make sure he knew exactly what it felt like to be blindsided. On the plane, I rehearsed different scenarios in my head. Maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. But deep down, I knew better. That nagging voice, the one I'd been ignoring for months, had finally won. Tomas wasn't who I thought he was. By the time I landed, the air felt heavier, charged with anticipation. I wasn't just here to find out the truth. I was here to make him regret ever thinking he could play me. The resort was breathtaking. Pristine beaches, towering palm trees swaying in the breeze, the scent of salt and sunscreen lingering in the air. Under different circumstances, I might have taken a deep breath and soaked it all in. But not today. Today, I was here for one reason only. I kept my sunglasses on as I walked through the lobby, scanning the guests. My heart pounded, my fingers curled tightly around the handle of my suitcase. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew I'd find it. And then I did. Thomas. Laughing, relaxed, completely at ease, and holding another woman's hand. For a split second, the world around me blurred. The sounds of clinking glasses, waves crashing in the distance, the hum of conversation. It all faded into a hollow silence. I felt my stomach drop, my breath hitch in my throat. There it was. The truth. Laid out right in front of me. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just watched. Watched him smile, watched him whisper something in her ear, watched her laugh like she belonged there. My body burned with a mix of fury and humiliation. But my mind? My mind was sharper than ever. It wasn't just the fact that he was with someone else. It was the way he looked at her, the same way he used to look at me. The ease, the comfort, the intimacy. I had been nothing more than an option, a temporary placeholder while he figured out who was more worthy to introduce to his family. And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife even deeper, his parents appeared. Smiling, chatting with her, accepting her. That was it. That was all I needed. The rage I felt wasn't just for him. It was for me. For every woman who had ever been made to feel like she had to compete for a man's approval. I could have stormed over, screamed in his face, caused a scene. But I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of thinking he had that kind of control over me. No, I had a better idea. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and turned on my heel. Thomas had no idea I was here, no idea what was coming. But soon he would. I had every right to be furious, but rage wouldn't be enough. Confronting him now would be satisfying, sure, but temporary. I didn't want a moment of satisfaction. I wanted something lasting, something he'd never forget. So I watched. I studied him. Thomas thought he was in control, thought he had carefully constructed this little game where he got to decide who was worthy. But I saw through him now. His charm, his careful words, the way he shifted his attention between her and his parents, it was all an act. I took mental notes. When he held her hand, when he let go, when he turned on that fake, effortless grin for his parents, like he wasn't hiding something. And then I noticed something else. His parents liked her, but they weren't in love with her. That's when it hit me. I didn't need to confront Thomas. I needed to dismantle him from the inside. I started small, casual. I waited for the perfect moment, when Tomas's parents were alone, away from him, but still in their element. Then, with an air of confidence and just the right amount of familiarity, I approached them. "Mr. and Mrs. Calderon?" I said, my voice light, polite. "I'm Clara. We actually spoke a few days ago." Their faces lit up with recognition. "Oh, Clara," his mother beamed, touching my arm like we were old friends. "We were wondering why Thomas hadn't introduced you yet." Bingo. I smiled, letting out a small, carefully placed laugh. "Yeah, me too." I tilted my head, my expression just thoughtful enough. "It's funny, actually. He told me this was a family-only trip, so I didn't want to intrude." His father frowned, exchanging a glance with his wife. "That doesn't sound right," he muttered under his breath. Hook, line, sinker. I could see the doubt creeping in, the little wrinkle forming between his mother's brows. She glanced toward Thomas, who was still lost in his perfect little performance, completely unaware that the foundation beneath him was beginning to crack. "That is strange," his mother murmured, her voice laced with confusion. "He never mentioned anything about a family-only rule." I kept my expression neutral, but inside I was smiling. "I thought so too," I said, my voice light, conversational, especially since he made it sound like I wasn't supposed to be here at all. Then, with a small, thoughtful tilt of my head, I added, "But maybe he just got confused." The seed was planted. I didn't need to say anything else. I just had to let them water it themselves. His father straightened, his posture shifting. We should talk to him about this, he muttered, his tone sharper now. His mother nodded in agreement, a shadow of doubt clouding her once warm smile. I took a sip of my drink, masking my satisfaction. Thomas thought he could play with me. But he forgot one simple rule: never underestimate the woman you try to deceive. The pieces were in place. Thomas had no idea what was coming, no idea that the people he worked so hard to impress were already questioning him. He had built his life around carefully managing perceptions, controlling the narrative. But tonight, I was taking that control away. Dinner was the perfect setting: a beautifully lit outdoor terrace, white tablecloths, waiters in crisp uniforms gliding between tables. The kind of place where everything looked perfect, until someone shattered the illusion. I took my seat at a nearby table, close enough to see every detail. Thomas was relaxed, flashing that same charming smile he had once used on me. His parents sat across from him, exchanging small pleasantries with the woman at his side, the woman he had chosen to introduce as worthy. I waited. I let him get comfortable. And then, at just the right moment, I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked over. Every step deliberate, every breath steady. Thomas glanced up, still mid-laugh, until his eyes met mine. And just like that, the color drained from his face. For a moment, Thomas just stared. His smile froze, his jaw tensed. He looked like a man watching his carefully constructed world collapse in slow motion. His parents turned toward me, confused but polite, while his so-called respectable girlfriend blinked up at me, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I tilted my head, letting a small, knowing smile play on my lips. "Hi, Thomas," I said, my voice smooth, steady. "Oh, I see you brought your other girlfriend." I turned to his parents, feigning innocence. "Funny, I thought I was supposed to be the one meeting you this weekend." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. The kind that makes the air thick, the kind that pulls every eye in the room toward the unfolding disaster. His mother was the first to react. Her brow furrowed, her gaze snapping to Thomas. "Thomas," she said slowly, her voice dangerously calm. "What is she talking about?" Thomas opened his mouth, but no words came out. He looked between me, his parents, and his girlfriend, who by now had pulled her hand away from his, realization dawning in her wide, horrified eyes. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, tapping the screen. "Just in case there's any confusion," I said sweetly, flipping it around for them to see. Tomas's parents' messages, clear as day, the proof, the undeniable evidence that he had invited both of us, that he had played us both. His girlfriend let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh, shaking her head. "Oh my God," she whispered, pushing her chair back. She saw it too. She saw the truth. Tomas finally found his voice, but it was weak, frantic. "Clara, please." I didn't need to hear the excuses. I had already won. Thomas reached for my arm, desperation flickering in his eyes, but I stepped back effortlessly, like his touch might stain me. His parents weren't looking at me anymore. They were looking at him. And in that moment, I saw it. The way their admiration crumbled, the way confusion morphed into disappointment. His father's voice was sharp, cutting through the thick silence. "Tomas, what is this?" His mother, still staring at the screen in my hand, inhaled sharply. "You lied to us," she murmured, almost to herself. "You lied to everyone." I didn't need to add anything else. I had given them the match, and they had already lit the fire. Thomas's other girlfriend stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. Her expression shifted between shock, disgust, and something I recognized well, the sting of betrayal. "You told me I was the only one," she said, her voice shaking. "You said—" She stopped herself, exhaling a bitter laugh. "You know what? I don't even care what you said." She grabbed her bag and turned to me, eyes blazing. "You deserve better." She walked away without another word, leaving Thomas alone to face the wreckage. The whispers had started now. Other diners glancing over, murmuring, watching as the perfect Tomas Calderone unraveled in real time. A spectacle, a humiliation, exactly what he deserved. I didn't need to see the rest. My work here was done. I had taken back my power. I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving Thomas sitting in the ruins of his own lies. I should have felt lighter, victorious. But as I walked through the dimly lit corridors of the resort, past clinking glasses and distant laughter, I only felt done. Not just with Thomas, not just with the lie, with all of it. I found a quiet corner in the bar and ordered a drink, letting the ice clink against the glass as I swirled it absent-mindedly. The show was over, the curtain had dropped, and yet, I knew he'd come, and just like clockwork, he did. Clara. His voice was different now, raw, stripped down. When I turned, he wasn't the Thomas I had known, the one always in control, always 2 steps ahead. No, this Thomas was pale, shoulders slumped, eyes full of something that looked dangerously close to regret. He stepped closer, hesitated, then exhaled sharply. I messed up, he admitted. I was confused. He ran a hand through his hair, as if trying to physically pull the right words from his head. I never wanted to hurt you. I took a slow sip of my drink, savoring the silence between us before setting the glass down. Then I looked him right in the eyes. Unmoved, unshaken, done. You thought you could test us, I said calmly, to see who was worthy of you. I leaned back, my voice colder now. But you never stopped to ask if you were worthy of me. The words hit him like a punch. I saw it in the way his jaw tensed, the way his fingers curled into fists at his sides. He knew the answer. Thomas inhaled sharply, like he had something else to say, some excuse, some plea, some desperate attempt to rewrite what had already been written. But I just sat there, watching him, unmoved. There was nothing he could say that would change the truth. His shoulders sagged. I didn't mean for this to happen, he muttered, more to himself than to me. His voice was thin now, stretched with the weight of consequences he never expected to face. I thought I had time to figure things out. I scoffed, shaking my head. Time? I echoed. Thomas, you weren't confused. You were calculating. I tilted my head, my gaze steady. And you lost. He swallowed hard, his hands tightening into fists before releasing again. The great Tomás Calderón, reduced to a man who finally had to sit in the mess he made. He reached forward, just a small movement, hesitant, like he wanted to touch my hand. But I pulled back effortlessly. That simple act, denying him even the smallest connection, made his expression crumble. Clara, please, he whispered. Just talk to me. I exhaled slowly, then stood. This conversation was over. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence stretch between us. Letting him feel it. The weight of my absence before I was even gone. He had spent so much time playing his game, convinced he was in control, convinced he could keep us both dangling on a string. But now, he was the one left waiting. I leaned in just enough that only he could hear me. My voice was quiet, steady, final. Next time, pick the right girlfriend, I whispered, my lips curving into a ghost of a smile. Then, after the briefest pause, I added, oh wait, there won't be a next time. His face crumbled, his breath hitched, and just like that, Tomás Calderón, the man who had once held all the cards, was left with nothing. I straightened, picked up my drink, and turned away. No hesitation, no second glance. Behind me, I heard his breath shudder, the quiet sound of someone breaking. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I was done.